No. John, I've said a couple of times to a couple of people, the most important thing that a board does is appoint a manager and release a manager. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, it's one of the key issues, and it's something that you always struggle with as a board of directors, because there's sometimes not a right answer and a wrong answer, and it's a collective decision. But I would say appointing the manager is something that the board try to do as best they can, but you can get a situation of too many cooks. So you've got to take a sounding from every board member, from all of the applicants, and see what their opinion is, then draw up the shortlist based on that, which is what we did. And then 3 of us actually ran the shortlist so that it wasn't literally a huge committee meeting. And then we went back to the board with our thoughts, feelings and recommendations. They mulled it over, discussed it, and we were all unanimous in our decision to go for Graham Kavanagh. But getting rid of the manager is a different thing. I would think, to be honest, it's not necessarily a board of directors that gets rid of a manager. I think it's the business and often the fans that get rid of the manager at the end of the day. The board of directors are the tool that's used to actually carry that out. And that's not always an easy decision, because you've got to focus very clearly on what's happening. In our case, moving away from the manager was easy because we basically had a business that was suffering. So we had gates that were going down. For sure there were fans telling us that they wanted to take that route, but with gates that were going down, the business was beginning to suffer, the income was going down, therefore we couldn't spend as much on the team, therefore we couldn't continue to go forward. It's a totally decreasing circle. So to say it's a difficult job for the board, it is, but it isn't the board that starts the whole thing off. It's fans, it's business, it's the whole circumstance of the club.
The reality of the situation is that it's a man you've worked with for 6 years, he's been your manager for nearly 5. How difficult is that? Very difficult, because underneath it all, doesn't matter, he's the manager, and you can't distinguish sometimes the difference between the manager and the man. And the man's a person and somebody who you've worked closely with, so there are feelings that run deeper than just business decisions. And we've always got to face that sort of a thing. But at the end of the day, you've got to withdraw and take the business decision that's right for the business. You've got to sometimes entrench yourself back into being a director of a business that says, this is a business that's bigger than both of us or all of us, and we've got to look at the direction of the business. And so after 100 years of Carlisle United at Brunton Park, you've got to look at it that way. We want another 100 years of Carlisle United. Not all at Brunton Park probably, but we want another 100 years of Carlisle United. So you've got to entrench back to your business and look at it from a business point of view. Around about 3 weeks from the release of Greg to the appointment of the new manager, how important was it for the board to do it as quickly as that? It was important. I've got to be honest that in real terms, and the truth is that in real terms, that result against Sheffield United, when we asked and we called them the United Three, please can you keep this club going for the next 7 days? And they all took it on, and there was no one senior amongst that group of 3. Obviously Graham had been coaching the first team, and David Hines was on the youth side, Tony Cake was on the goalkeeping side, but I never said to any of them, look, you're the senior man. Graham knew more about the first team because he'd been there. And once we got through that first game with Sheffield United, and they tried lots of new things, and do you know something, I was really pleased of the courage that they had to do that. And having got through that, there was a degree of pressure lifted because we'd got our first win. And so the team was lifted, the dressing room was lifted, the whole club was lifted, ticket office, everybody in the club was lifted. And so it was important to do it in a fairly tight time scale, but that time scale was given a little bit of breathing space because of that 1-0 win. How many applicants did we get in the end? We were well over 50 applicants, and they were still coming in on the day that we were doing the interviews. And some applicants chased me when I was in London, not chased me literally, but on my phone literally all the time. Why haven't I made the shortlist? We started off with a very simple process of going around all the directors with all the CVs, and I ended up with a long shortlist. And out of that, there was something like 8 or 9. Contacted them all and asked them if they wanted to come to the Sheffield United game. Some did, and there was no promise that they would hit the then shortlist.
And then there was another opportunity to go to the Stevenage game. And again, some did and some observed, and then we went into the shortlisting and the process of interviews on the Tuesday after Stevenage. In all fairness to Graham Carve, we didn't tell him that he was on the shortlist and up for interview until after the Stevenage game, because that would have been too much pressure to add that to the game. And he was fine. And everybody worked to exactly the same criteria. They were given a series of things to address in the club. They had 20 minutes to address that. We had 20 minutes to question them, and then we had a summing up period for 20 minutes. So it was, the whole process for each candidate was just inside an hour.